Now we're live. Gotta love technology. So it takes a bit for YouTube to send out notifications. So if you are joining us on a recording, meaning this has already happened and you're watching this, then it might be a little bit boring for you in the beginning. If you are joining us on the live and you're actually coming on the live stream, then hey, you're here and that's great. So YouTube usually sends out a notification. It takes a bit and then people start coming in. So until then, I will cater to the people that are watching this on a recording and coming in and talking. Want to a couple of announcements. Membership for the Dad University membership. I just launched a new course called Finding Work-Life Harmony. Talks about everything from regret to creating schedules, gives you specific strategies and tools to eliminate a lot of the wasted time that we have, and just really make sure that you are in line with what it is that your goals are and what you want with the actual actions that you're taking. Work-life harmony is different for everyone. So we don't tell you that, you're supposed to spend this much time in this area and that much time in a different area. We just give you the tools so that you can decide yourself and, what harmony is for you. So that's what the work-life harmony course, like all the other courses, it is included in the membership. And the cost of membership is pay what feels good. So there is not a specific price. There is an average price of what people pay. But you can pay less, you can pay more, you can pay what feels good for you. And for some people, they feel good contributing to Dad University, and so that we can create more content. And obviously, the more people and the more people pay, the better and more time we can allocate towards things. So so that's good. If you are interested in the membership, go to the website, daduniversity.com, click on Become a Member, and you can enjoy that. If you are joining the live stream, be sure to say hello, where you're from. I love kind of hearing where people are from. And then any questions you have, I'm happy to answer, or at least attempt to answer. I won't pretend to answer, meaning if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to say it. Let me know what you're thinking. Always enjoy, hearing some feedback or questions that you might have. And then what else? So we have the membership and the new courses. Prior to that, it was actually a month ago, we launched another new course too. I think there's a total of 7 courses inside. And so that is for members. We also have a discussion forum, and as well, I have hundreds of videos, edited videos, slimmed down to specific stuff. There's no fluff in these videos, meaning I'm not telling you or asking you to buy anything or doing anything. These are just the core content. It's just the core content of what we're offering. And so there's a couple hundred videos of that. So, and it's all broken down by the age of your child, the different behaviors, or the different subjects. So you can check that out too. So let me know if you have any questions. Happy to answer. If you are here just to observe and hear what other people have to ask, that's cool too. I guess maybe what I can do, if there are no questions coming up that quickly, I can talk about work-life balance a little bit. And because we talk about work-life balance in this new course, and it's an issue for men a lot. It's a lot of questions that I get, especially for men that have a baby on the way. They're really worried about their free time. They're really worried that they're not going to be able to do the things that they used to do. And sometimes that's true. Things do evolve and things do change, but this course, that's the purpose of it, is to sort of understand what is important to you. And, we have all different facets of our lives as a father, husband, son, friend, brother, just whatever the roles are that you have, in the community, as a business person or an employee, your spirituality or religion. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can identify with and things that we like to spend our time on. And it can be overwhelming to try to do all of these things at once and do them all really well. And that's part of what this course talks about is, giving yourself some compassion and some self-care to understand that, you can't be perfect all the time. And I've talked about that in a couple of videos, but this goes into a lot more detail about really outlining what's important to you. You don't want to live with regret. I talk a lot about regret in this course. And you don't want to go through your life living with that regret. The line is, nobody on their deathbed ever says, I should have spent more time at the office. So, I should have spent time with the people I love. I should have told people that I love them. And that's a lot of what this course is about. It also doesn't judge, or I don't judge, how you spend your times. Everybody's work-life harmony is unique. And so it doesn't mean that, you should be spending more time with your family versus you're working. If you love your work and enjoy your work, then that's great. It's really about the quality of the time, not necessarily the quantity of the time. And we go into that too, quantity versus quality. That's another one of the issues. So if you're just joining us, what I was talking about is just the Finding Work-Life Balance course that's now added for members. If you're a member of Dad University, great. If you are not yet, you can go to daduniversity.com. It's pay what feels good, meaning you pay the amount that you want to pay. And it supports us and it supports yourself. It's an investment for yourself, but then also helps us make more content and continue helping people. So if you have a question, go ahead and write it in the chat. Say hello. Let me know where you're from. I'd love to hear from you. And that's all. I don't want to keep promoting, but I certainly can talk about one of the topics if we want. We've got a couple different topics. Let's see. We can talk about, how about feeling overwhelmed? If anyone who's watching this feels overwhelmed, put it in the chat and just say yes, so that I know that there's people out there that actually feel the same. Otherwise, I might be the only person that feels overwhelmed, and I certainly don't want to talk to a room full of people that are not overwhelmed. So if you are overwhelmed, thank you, Eric. It's not something. There is somebody else out there who feels overwhelmed. I'm excited. I'm not excited that you're overwhelmed. I'm excited that we share the common humanity that we all share, that, we all have similar problems. So one of the things with feeling overwhelmed that I have learned is prioritizing my overwhelm. And so what does that mean? It means there are things that cause us overwhelm at different levels. And combined together, they are overwhelming. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say you're changing jobs, and that could be an exciting thing, but it could also be overwhelming. Or, you're taking care of a sick parent. That could be overwhelming. You have some issues with your kids or your wife or whatever. You have all these issues that eventually, that all together cause you overwhelm. But it's important to prioritize that overwhelm. In other words, if you have 100% overwhelm, what percentage do each one of these items cause you? And let's say taking care of a sick parent is 50% of your overwhelm. That's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to analyze. And, whereas maybe, the stress of like your child, overwhelming you is maybe like a, 3 to 5%. It's really not as big of a deal, but in combination with all the other things, it can be quite overwhelming. So, one of the things to do is when you prioritize your overwhelm, you can then identify maybe which ones can you do something about, and so let's say it is your parent, you're taking care of a sick parent, how could you reduce that overwhelm? Well, maybe you can get some additional help. Maybe you can, is there another alternative of where they might be able to stay? You start going through those processes of sort of where should you put your effort and where can you, change something, and understanding too that things that cause you overwhelm, you can't always change them, but if you can, then you go through that process of doing that. So in the course, we help you define those things as well as determine what you can and can't control. When you can control something and you don't do anything about it, that's really on you. There's nobody else to blame in that scenario. It's really on you to change something. So we go into that, and I think that that's an important concept. The other is talking about it. Just the idea. I mean, I appreciate Eric and Kaladin 2745 of saying, yes, I'm overwhelmed. That is a big step. Just admitting that you're overwhelmed. I mean, I can tell you right now, this minute, I'm overwhelmed. Why? Because I have so many different things going on, and I can prioritize them. I have, whether it's the work, my kids just started school, physically, I've got my arm hurts, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I have sick parents. So there's various things that we can do. And so part of it is like, first, just admitting that we feel overwhelmed. And then, two, prioritizing it and tackling them and saying, hey, can I change this or not? Does the feeling of overwhelm help me in any way? Like me stressing out about this, is that gonna help me? RNR, Ray here from Australia. I spoke to you on Messenger. Just wanted to give you an update. My wife gave birth last night to a beautiful, beautiful, healthy baby girl about to go back up into the room. Well, congratulations, Ray. That's awesome to hear. Hope that everything else goes well. So as an example, Ray just had his child. That's awesome. He could be excited. It could also be overwhelming. It's like, okay, now what do we do? So I think, I think it's important to, recognize what are the things that are causing you. Do you have any ability to, change them? If you don't have any ability to change the situation, well, then you have to change either your attitude about it or, change something. If you have an opportunity to change, then you need to change it. So, another thing too, and this goes, I'm doing actually some training on self-compassion. I'm taking a course. And this is a big thing about this, is knowing that you're not alone. And there's a lot of power in knowing that you're not alone. And I think that's why a lot of guys enjoy this channel. Alexander, wife is 32 weeks. Love the content. Subscribe for a week or two now. Thanks for keep it up. Great to have you here, Alexander. Appreciate that. And that's an example. Alexander came here seeing, that there's other people, going through similar things. The things that I'm talking about, you identify with, and you're like, oh man, that's exactly how I feel. That in itself, that feeling that you're not alone, helps reduce the overwhelm. It helps reduce the anxiety and the stress. And I was talking about the self-compassion, which I just did a 3-part video series on. That's a big thing about compassion and self-compassion is feeling like you're not alone, and you're feeling like you're not the only person going through whatever you're going through, or just the person that's going through something. I think we all, go through our different things at different levels, but this idea that everybody has stuff that they're going through is, I don't know, I say use the word comforting, but it's, and that's the case. When you see people on social media, or you see, celebrities, or you see your friends and they're posting, they're only showing you the good stuff. They're, if that's the only method that you communicate with them, you don't see a lot of the daily struggles that, that people go through. And unfortunately, that doesn't help us feel better, because you don't think that anybody else is going through that, or you think that, XYZ or your friend here or there is not having any problems. And so that kind of helps perpetuate our difficulties. So, sorry. Christopher asks, best approach when it comes to feeding time to not be overwhelmed. Christopher, maybe you can clarify what specifically around feeding time is feeling overwhelming. Sometimes I know if you're breastfeeding, it can be that the child doesn't latch on or the child's not feeding. So maybe you can be more specific of what's overwhelming if your child's not wanting to eat or not wanting to feed. But again, I would hope Christopher would feel better knowing that that's a common thing, that, during certain times you may feel overwhelmed and other people feel that way too. You'll have to clarify what part of it, I guess. I'm not seeing. Okay. So the other parts of, feeling overwhelmed is self-care. And what is self-care? Self-care means, recognizing that you're overwhelmed and then doing something that you need to feel better or to break the cycle. And so, as an example, for many, that could be, going to the gym. It could be taking a break, just taking a break from wherever you are. Anything like that can be really helpful. And I don't think men, we may not think of it as self-care as much, like, I'm going golfing or I'm doing this or I'm going to hang out with the boys or whatever. I mean, that often is self-care. Of course, people turn to some things that aren't as healthy for themselves, whether that be, addictions and alcohol and drugs, which are not going to be self-care. That might be considered self-soothing, but it's not self-care. Self-care is something that is healthy and is going to help you. And I think if you have a partner, you're going to want to make sure that you're giving each other the breaks. If you have, especially a young child, you're giving each other the breaks. I know Eric said, get some water. I agree. Maybe I can get somebody here to get me some. I'm coughing. And exercise, that's something that helps me, just exercising and, getting good sleep. All of those things are really, really important. So another question here. Justin asks, any tips for 2 children when you have a toddler and a newborn? All right, I'll tackle kind of one of these at a time. Thank you. All right. Thank you for noticing, Eric, that my throat. So any tips for when you have a toddler and a newborn? Well, and if you do have your spouse, because you talked about alone time. Yeah, I think you have to schedule things. That's probably a very important thing. And the 2-year-old or the toddler, sorry, not to, get the toddler involved in enjoying the idea. And it depends if they have, what situation you're in, but, enjoying the idea of the new child. Like, they can be the helper. They can be, you got to be careful not relying on them too much for, like, watching the child or, like, doing things, but they can really be a helper. And that's usually a good situation for, but toddler and newborn, if they're getting along, that's great. But like, as in time management, you definitely have to have schedules. In our course, we go over a nighttime routine, a morning routine. You've got to establish those routines. That will help you and them quite a bit. As far as alone time, you have to figure that out with your spouse about, um, what works for her, especially because, the end of the day, you're both going to be very tired. Is it something where you can schedule, a night alone if you have people near you that can watch the kids, or you can get away for a night, or when the children, before the children wake up. I mean, there's all kinds of things to be creative, but you're right. You only have 24 hours in a day. So, communicate with your wife and figure out what that good time would be. But you got to schedule things. And one of the things too that we're all so guilty of is wasting time. You don't really realize that. And in this course that I just created, we have, one of the things is documenting your time. Like, what are you spending your time on? And so you say there's only 24 hours in a day, but there's other people that have the same thing and they may do a lot more in that 24 hours. So how are you spending the time? Are you watching TV? Are you on social media? Are there things where you're wasting, quote, wasting time that you could do something else, or that you could do something else? Alexander said, I started massaging her feet because they were swollen and hurt. And I told her I followed your channel and saw a video about it. She was so positively surprised and happy about it. That is good. One more positive man, woman in the world because of her man is a good thing. Vibes, the producer, any advice on sentence structure? My baby is almost 3 and says more than a few words, but he could use improvement on his sentence structure. I'm not an education expert when it comes to the children, but I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about this or push too hard. When they first get into school, preschool, so maybe they'll be 4-ish, 4 or 5. That's when you start kind of at 3. That's pretty early of sentence structure. I don't know that I would be concerned about that. Put a child at 3 years old putting a few words together seems pretty good. At least that's my opinion. That wouldn't be something that I would try to push harder. There's probably some other things, dexterity, agility, physicality, some other things, but sounds like your child's on the right track. Christopher says, you had an episode on toddler discipline and how we can be more disciplined when it comes to knowing it's time to eat. Well, if you're talking about your toddler knowing what time to eat, typically your toddler will tell you or show you. So if you have a schedule, and let's say your schedule is, breakfast is at 8, lunch is at noon, and dinner's at 5 or, whatever, 6. You've got to have somewhat of a schedule to keep it consistent. And then what happens is, child throws a tantrum and is going crazy that at, 10:30 in the morning. And part of it is because they might be really hungry. And so it's okay to, I don't think you can expect, and especially if you aren't really rigid, you can't then expect that your child is going to adhere to the same schedule of eating that you do. Oftentimes, I know my children were both like this. They didn't like to sit down and have a large meal. Yeah, we wanted to do that. We wanted to have a nice dinner or a nice lunch, but they didn't that's not how they operated. They wanted little snacks. We could starve them for a couple of hours and then they'd be really hungry, but we also found that they'd be hangry. They would be really upset and agitated and stuff. And it's like, I didn't really want to deal with that either. So I think, in the toddler stage, I don't think that mealtime has to be so strict. I think you can try to do it, but it could be something too where the toddler just has a small snack because they ate, multiple times throughout the day. And I think that that's fine too. I think, different children are different. I don't think you can all put them in all one box. So as far as you being overwhelmed, that part of it, I think is just by letting go a little bit, letting go of the rigidity that you have to have your toddler eat at this time. You have to eat it at this time. And if that's what you're talking about, hopefully, that helps. Wow, lots of stuff coming in now. So BapJap, how did you handle being a first-time dad, balancing work, wife, and your own hobbies and personal time? My wife and I had very good communication, that I will say. And I think during my son's when he was first born, I was working a lot. I was running a company, and my wife took on a lot of the burden of the role, and we had discussions about it. There was a couple of times where she felt like I needed to back off, and I did so. And so I think it was just having that communication openly. And so in my course I call it work-life harmony, because all of these things working together. I didn't have a ton of hobbies per se, but a personal time. But I exercise. My wife exercised, so we would switch off going to the gym, and I would watch my son, and then she would watch him, and we'd switch off. And then we eventually got stuff into the house so that we could work out of the house, and one person would watch the child while the other would exercise. It's just communication. I mean, at least if you have a partner, that's where the communication comes in. Yeah, Eric said, so me and the wife both work from home. We had staggered schedules until recently as her position changed and my schedule changed. Yeah. I mean, you've got to every situation's different. So you got to coordinate that. But scheduling things is really helpful. Sometimes it just doesn't, you don't stick to the schedule. Hey, Abinth, or Abijith. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Hey, a 3-month-year-old now. Awesome. After feeding, I've heard from our parents it's best to put him on the shoulder and tap him on the back, but he's sometimes vomiting. What can we do to prevent that? Well, it depends why your parents are telling you to tap on the shoulder. Typically, the reason you would do that is because you're trying to get their gas. They may have gas. And so you're trying to burp them. That can be a way. But I mean, I know for us, my son spit up a lot. There would be times where we weren't even doing anything. And sometimes that could be that he was being, he was too full. He was overfed. What I would suggest is if there is a lot of vomiting, you might want to check with a pediatrician. That's more of a dietary, it could be a dietary need. All babies have spit up, but if it's a vomit or something like that, I would check with a pediatrician or doctor and make sure that everything's okay. Sometimes people are allergic, or, the babies are allergic to something, and so they'll vomit. So that's why I said you want to check with the doctor to make sure that everything's okay, and then they could probably help you. Yeah, so Jerry, this is a very common thing. Jerry's asked, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately with everything. I'm overworked at work, and when I come home, I just want to relax, but I have to deal with my toddler and pregnant wife. Yes, you do. And here's the thing that I think men don't realize is that, let's say your wife is at home with the toddler, and whether she's pregnant or not, but she's with the toddler all day. You've been working all day, and you come home and think, I'm not saying this is you, Jerry, but many men think that they should be relaxing because they worked all day. This is kind of the traditional idea. The man comes home, hey, puts a drink in his hand, gets the newspaper, and just gets to relax. Reality check is your wife was working all day. If you don't think that taking care of a toddler or baby or anything is hard work, I invite you to stay home from your job and take care of that toddler or baby the whole day. I found this out very specifically because I did that, and I had such a great appreciation for the times where my wife stayed home. And my wife then worked part-time and then went back to full-time. But I realized, because I had thought of it that way as well. And so the truth is that when you get home, it's then 50-50. You then are both responsible for the child. And so, there can be things where you could schedule, you could schedule and say, hey, on Tuesday, I want to be able to do this. What could I do on Monday so that maybe you have it some time to relax or you have some time to do something else. Look at your work and why you're getting overwhelmed. I don't say necessarily change jobs, but are there things about your work or the attitudes about it or how you approach it that you might be able to reduce your overwhelm? And, overwhelm, like stress and anxiety, happens because our reality doesn't meet our expectations. So you want to figure out what is it about your expectations that is different from your reality. And you may have the expectation that you should just be able to like go to work and relax or have, just enjoy yourself and do it. And maybe you could change your attitude to be able to do that. Or you have to sort of change your barometer and know and say, okay, stress, I'm going to be a little stressed at work because of this or that. And then I know when I get home, I'm going to have this and that. And you have to just kind of compartmentalize it. And it is, the toddler time when you have a toddler and if you have a pregnant wife or you have a baby or whatever, it is not an easy time. It's just not. I don't think that it's easy for any parent, regardless of whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you are you work and then you come home. It is just a time where the child needs so much attention. And oftentimes our spouses might need attention or you might need attention or whatever. It's a very, very difficult time. For me, 0 to 5 was hard, really hard. And I will say it gets easier. My kids are now 12 and 14. They're really, when I come home from work, the only stress really is that, something might not be clean, but the kids, it's not something where it's like, I've got to make sure that my child does this, or this, and that's just because over time things get a little bit easier as they get older. So, one of the things too, to maybe think about that is this isn't forever. It may feel like it, but that overwhelm, and no, you're not alone. Everyone feels it. And I had a friend, actually, this was some good advice that they had. They talked with their wife and said, listen, I need about, it was like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to decompress when I get home. It was kind of like, if you've ever not watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he comes home, takes his shoes off. And so literally this guy who kind of dressed up for work would come home, close his bedroom door, change into more relaxing clothes, change his shoes, put on a relaxed shirt, and like meditate for a couple minutes and just breathe, relax, and just have a second to unwind. And so none of the family and his wife, he kind of went in the side door or whatever, and they just kind of knew not to bother him for 10 or 15 minutes. Was his time. And he also agreed that during that time, he could decompress. He could just come into the house, relax, and then be present and be ready. And for him, he said it worked amazingly. He then could come into the house, greet the kids, everybody's happy, he can talk, blah, 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 whatever, and he was good to go. So for him, that worked. That might work for you. That was a long answer to a short question. Let me see any others right before I go. Oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff coming in here. Let's see. Chef Jeff, wife's giving birth in 2 weeks. Any tips for the delivery room? Yes. Watch the video on the channel. That's going to be the best way to do it. Watch the video on what to do in the delivery room. That's the best thing you can do is look for that. Gary, going to be a dad in March. Company gives 3 months of paternity and able to split up paid time off. Any recommendations on how to strategize PTO? Not really. Everyone is different with that. I personally, it's great that your company gives you that. I think that might be something to discuss with your wife, partner, significant other. to see how that's the best to do it. I don't necessarily know that I have advice for that. Anthony, hello. Let's see. Just want to make sure I'm getting to anybody. Eric, you're welcome. Good to have you here. Jerry, you're welcome. Chef, you're welcome. Chef Jeff. So I want to just let you guys know. Yeah. Again, I'd mentioned it before. There's some opportunity if you like, you subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, to the Dad University channel, please go do that. Certainly, that's something you want to do. But the other is the membership. The difference with the membership, and you can pay what feels good. In other words, you want to pay a lot of money and support Dad University, great. If you want to pay as low as $1, you can pay $1 a month. You can pay $5, $9, $19. There's a whole list of amounts that you can pay. You just go to the homepage at daduniversity.com and be part of that community that goes deeper. We can have deeper discussion, but most importantly to me is you have access to the courses. The courses go into great detail of all these different subjects. And then also the videos, and the videos are organized in a pretty decent way so that you can find the content you're looking for. And so you're going to want to check that out. Go to daduniversity.com and become a member. And the important part there too, it gives us a chance to communicate a little bit more in depth. I occasionally will do member only chats or member only broadcasts. And so for that, you can get more attention, however you want to say it, but it's also supporting Dad University. So I invite you guys to do that. I appreciate every one of you. Just enjoy the content, subscribe, love it. And anybody else has questions, go ahead and post them. Post them on the comments here, and I try to get to as many as I can. Sometimes there's a lot, and sometimes that can be difficult, but I try. And I do read them all, or at least somebody in our office does. And so we try to respond as much as possible. And those responses, almost all of them on YouTube are me. I like to personally respond to those, but occasionally, if there's just some generic question, I may not get to it. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody. Enjoyed this. I will try to do more. I know BapJap, you've said this, live streams, we have to do more of them. I will try. It's hard in between. As you all know, I'm a dad. I'm a son to a sick, to parents who need extra help. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to do my own things, and I exercise, I do things. So it can be very overwhelming. And so adding another thing, building this membership has been rewarding, but overwhelming. If you see the YouTube videos and all of this, it's wonderful. I love doing it. But it's a lot. And so just got to keep going, keep doing it. So thank you to everybody. Hope to see you soon. And we will see you next time. Take care.